Hello and welcome to an exclusive Now with Dave Brown interview. I'm Alex Smyth. I am joined by the stars of the new series Sight Unseen, Dolly Lewis and Agam Darshi. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
So, Dolly, I'm going to start with you on this question. When you first found out about Sight Unseen, what were your initial reactions on the project and what excited you about the project?
Oh my gosh, so many things. First, reading the script for Sight Unseen, I was really struck by the unusual relationships that were being developed here through technology. I hadn't seen anything like that before. And seeing a female lead who was dealing with some divergence in her sight was really exciting because I've experienced that in my own life and I haven't seen it very often on TV. So I was thrilled to be able to dive into that.
Agam, what about you? What excited you about this project?
I was really attracted to the mashup of genres that was developed. And I wasn't, to be completely honest with you, entirely sure if that would be kept throughout the season because sometimes I think when things are done for the first time, people get kind of scared. But it was. And so it's a hybrid of it is a detective thriller, it has aspirational moments, it can be heartfelt, it can be scary. It's funny. Sometimes it's sexy. Like it's a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, it's very quirky and really heartfelt. And so it was just interesting. I thought that was interesting. I also thought the characters were really well fleshed out and thoughtful. I had never seen they basically Kat and Nico, the showrunners, had created female leads that really just had a lot of flaws and a lot of challenges, but were also incredibly strong. And it was just very interesting to me.
Yeah, it really comes across as being very real. Like these are real people that you're kind of following along. Whereas sometimes it just doesn't have that sense. You can tell when it's very much just a character on screen playing, but there's a realism to this. And beyond that, the dynamic within I guess the main crux of the relationship between your two characters as being a visual guide through these online services. Obviously, this is based on real life services are out there. I'm curious, Agam, before you got the role, did you ever come across or have any knowledge of these types of services, or did you kind of learn about them after you were cast?
Yeah, I absolutely learned about it after I was cast. I had no idea that this could actually even be a possibility. In fact, I was cast, and I think it was a couple of weeks later, and I was thinking to myself, I said it out loud. I was like, oh, this would be such a great thing to actually have. And somebody was like, no, it does exist. And I was like, oh, no kidding. And so, of course, I did a deep dive and I talked to people who were a part of it and learned the type of technology that was used. It's pretty impressive.
And Dolly, for yourself, had you have had any experience with these types of services before?
I haven't, my condition with my sight is quite a bit different from Tess's. It's not as severe. It's much more slow progressing. So I haven't needed to tap into one of those yet, but it's amazing to see how far technology has come in terms of giving people independence. And we were actually talking about this last night. The flip side of that is that um, it can really shut people out. Everything is a touch screen these days. And for somebody who can't see that and needs to rely on texture, that's an incredible barrier. So I was really excited to see how Kat and Nico, the showrunners, would play with the duality of that.
Yeah, no, that's such an excellent point. It's something we talk about on our show quite often. For myself, with lived experience having vision loss and hearing loss, and a lot of the members on our team, we talk about is like there's such an emphasis on technology, but you have to also ensure that the technology in the digital space we go into becomes accessible for everyone. And that's certainly where technology like this, a service like this, really kind of jumps out as something exciting because it's opening those doors. It's letting people stay connected without being shut out, as you said. And I'm curious within the context of this show because I feel like they do a great job with Tessa's character at points throughout the episode to really visually showcase, the struggles with vision, the vision loss that she is experiencing in the moment. What were your thoughts when they chose to kind of not only hint or kind of allude to Tess's struggles within the moment, but visually show it as well, Dolly.
I thought that was fascinating and a really courageous choice to make. There's so much to put into the time allotted per episode. And having such variety in terms of the lenses and the points of view, like we have Sunny's point of view through the spy camera, we have different narrative cameras, and then we have Tess's actual vision. I thought the the decision to include that so that viewers could understand a little bit, they're not just watching my body move through a scene, they're also seeing it from my point of view. Oh, that's why she might stumble this way, because now I get it. She really can't see that part over there.
Or that's why she can see
Or
that part.
that's why
That
she
was
can,
that's
yeah.
also
Other
really
thing that
interesting as
there's,
well.
yeah, I totally agree that there was actually a lot more vision available to her than you might just read on the page. Yeah, so that was, I thought, really, really fun, different, creative, and brave as a challenge.
And I think you brought up a really good point as well. Like Dolly and I were talking about how, there's a spectrum of sight divergence, and generally in media, it's either you cannot see or you can see, and they do it in a very kind of like binary
Yeah.
way. And so I think that's what's just so impressive is that it's like, no, it's a spectrum.
Yeah, I really see that like they can see somebody and understand that they might have a challenge with partial sight loss, but they can still make eye contact. I think
Yeah.
little details like that might be very surprising to people and empowering as well.
Well, and then that's all speaks to authenticity. And a big part of this is authenticity both in front and behind the camera that this show has really worked hard to kind of cultivate and ensure, because as you mentioned, Dolly, it's really like you want to make sure that, okay, people are you're educating people, and Agam, you made the great point too, that vision is not a binary, especially when it comes to vision loss. People, in how people have been portrayed in media for so long, it's like you're either completely blind or you can fully see. There's not that in between. So behind the scenes, like, can you both kind of talk about what that authenticity, how it's kind of brought into these different situations, into the characters, into the scripts, and into the production of the show as well? Agam, I'll start with you.
Well, I actually think that Dolly could talk more about this, but there was consultants, sight impaired consultants that were used and very heavily actually in terms of the writing of the scripts, as well as for Dolly and to talk to and to collaborate with. But also, we have two showrunners, Nico and Karen is very vocal about her journey with her sight throughout the years and how many surgeries she's had. And, it was really beautiful. I read something that she said where sometimes you would see her and she would have to have her scripts like this close to her face. And because there were so many different people on set in front and behind the camera that had sight impairments, who were sight diverse, they made the scripts larger. They made the sides larger, like little things like that, where she said, I feel like I was part of a tribe I was with other people that were like me. And I wasn't the weirdo that had my script up to here. I was actually with people who were like me. So I think moments like that were really special and important.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The consultants that helped me and helped everybody on the show, the showrunners, I know they were in close contact with Yvonne Felix, who's an amazing consultant here actually in Toronto. She's a wonderful woman. She opened up about her experience to me, and every single person's experience is different, but it was interesting to hear her talk because her sight loss is more severe than mine. So hearing how she goes about her day in a way that's very different from me was incredibly valuable input to make me feel like I'm doing right by this character's experience.
No, that's fantastic to hear, and it's definitely something that is so valuable. And then when they do have those opportunities, the moments, those little changes, and the impact that can have just overall, it's great to hear, because it moves the industry for it as well. Because even if you're not personally impacted or connected to the disability community, you can see, oh, well, just making the scripts larger font, what a difference that can make. Go figure,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and other funny little details and I have to say, everybody, the entire crew jumped on board and were curious and supportive and enthusiastic. I remember walking to the soundstage one day, and this amazing locations PA took me on a little tour, and she said, I've put neon tape on all the different doors with different symbols, so because it's very dark in the soundstage and I have night blindness, she was like, this might help you to navigate, are you going into the soundstage next door or are you going to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Little things
That's awesome.
that made me feel like people are paying attention.
And on our trailer as well, there was a big
Yes.
X. There was a big X, and somebody said to me, "Oh, it's for Dolly," so that when she's going to her trailer, she knows which one it is because there were so many of them.
Yeah,
So yeah, it was.
little details like that
Yeah, it was
that felt
really
like a community.
I'm curious what you both hope audience members take away from the show. And Dolly, I'll start with you on this one.
Oh, I hope they take away so many things. But probably most of all, when people watch Sight Unseen, I want them to understand, like Agam said earlier, sight divergence is a spectrum. And there's so much to mine in that in terms of the human experience that I think everybody could benefit from. I think that's really interesting for anybody, whether this has touched their life or not directly. And I also hope people have a lot of fun. It talks about really heavy subjects in a way. Crime, a kind of crisis in Tessa's life that she has to figure out. But there's also so much humor. There's so much heart. You're on the edge of your seat, seeing, trying to figure out what happens next in the case and what happens between those two people. So it's a really human story. And I hope they just have a great time watching it.
And Agam, what about you? What do you hope audiences take away?
I mean, I think Dolly pretty much summed it up. I think, I mean, from my perspective, I play Sunny, who is an agoraphobic. And again, like we used to see that in a really sort of binary way and a very black and white way, probably about 10 years ago on TV. And now, especially after COVID, it's not as out there of an idea. And I have someone very close to me who was agoraphobic for a few years during COVID, and just knowing that we're actually a lot closer to these people than we realize. Like people do lose their sight. People do have incredible anxiety these days and want to just hold themselves up. And from society and from the outside world, it's not that crazy of an idea. And so where's the humanity in that?
And lastly, before I let you both go, the one thing I've noticed in the lead up to this premiere is the amount of promotion that CTV has done to really push forward and announce and make sure you get as many viewers tuning into this, even having it air right after the playoff games on the weekend. Like, this is a big push that CTV is doing. What does it mean to the two of you knowing that you're getting the support from this broadcaster to really make sure as many people are going to be watching this show? Dolly, I'll give you a first word.
Oh, it means everything. I've never had an experience like this where I feel that it really feels like a huge family. Everybody is gearing up. Everybody I've talked to who has gotten to see snippets or gotten to see the full pilot is just over the moon. And it feels like we're doing something really important, something that's important and that's also fun. That balance. I'm really excited for that.
And Agam, what about you?
Same thing. I mean, growing up in Canada and having watched CTV over the years, I know the kind of programming that they do, and this just feels kind of surreal to be on a show that they're so enthusiastic about and that they want people to see, and also a show that just feels so timely and interesting, but also different. Like it's very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Well, Dolly, Agam, thank you both so much for chatting with me today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been really fun. Thank you.
And for you at home, Sight Unseen airs Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time and Pacific Time on CTV.